February 2021, I made a decision. A quiet decision, but one that I'd been toying with for about 12 months. I was going to sign up to Australia's toughest one-day bicycle race, the Grafton to Inverell. Now, anyone who knows about cycling in Australia will have heard of this mighty race. It's the one that strikes fear into the hearts of cyclists. But don't let me bang on about it, the stats speak for themselves. 228 Ks, as the name suggests, starting in the town of Grafton and heading all the way to Inverell. 3,300 vertical metres of climbing, including up the Gibraltar Range, a 16-kilometre climb averaging 5.6% and topping out around 10%, where the elevation will hit 1,100 at the peak. It's a race where a good time is considered when you finish in under 7 hours. In layman's terms, it's basically a tough Tour de France stage. And that's before considering the impact of the weather. In previous years, cold winds, rain, and just bitter cold have meant that more than half the fields simply haven't finished. Make no mistake, this was going to be an effort just to get to the finish line. So why make a video about it? I'm glad you asked. It's because it's not the sort of race you can just turn up and do. You need to train, and train a lot. 15 to 20 hours a week for more than 3 months. It's a sort of race you have to dive in with both feet, otherwise it'd be an absolute unmitigated disaster. It takes dedication, it takes planning, it takes commitment, it takes just a little bit of insanity. It'd be the easiest race in the world to pull out of after signing up. No one would know. Unless, of course, you made a YouTube video, then you're totally locked in. So sit back and relax and enjoy my training journey from the first session all the way through to race day. Watch as I expend all the nervous energy and make all the mistakes in the lead up, and maybe, hopefully, that might help you if you decide one day to give this race a crack. Did I get to the start line? How did I go? Did I finish? Did I have a fairy tale result? All will be revealed. All the ups and some of the painful downs are coming up in this video. I hope you stick around to the end. My name's Michele Michillo, and this is my Grafton to Inverell story. We pick up the story in Brisbane in February 2021. I've just decided to sign up for G2I, and I'm starting my first official day of training. This is effectively week 2 of Grafton training. Last week was all about sickness and rain. This week is all about lockdowns. 3-day lockdown in Brisbane. Today, thankfully, I managed to escape to the Gold Coast, and now I'm on rep 3 of my favourite climb on the coast, Springbrook. It's been a rainy morning, but it's just magnificent to be out here. So we're nearing the end of week 2. Had a much better week this week. Weather was a bit iffy, it's still wet today, but coming off a big day yesterday, my first proper long effort or long ride out of Grafton, 6 hours, just under 6 hours, 180k. It was a challenge. On Tuesday I did 5 hours, or just over, for 150, and yesterday I had an extra hour. Really made a difference. It was struggling by the end.
couch bound most of yesterday, but feeling pretty good. The bad news in the week was that the Tour de Brisbane has been cancelled, so don't get a chance to test the legs in a road race. Yeah, suffering today, just a bit of a recovery. 60k so far. Still thinking positively about the race. Let's see how that goes with a few more 6-hour rides. Probably last ride for the week, maybe a little cruise tomorrow morning, but pick it up again next week. But yeah, much better week this week, feeling pretty good. Still feeling good about the race, which is good. And another weekend of long case to go. See how we go. Okay, it's Friday, still, well now I guess 3 weeks to go, just about to Grafton. Today's Big K's day, and we're out in the Gold Coast hinterland. Awesome spot, behind his dam. And today on the menu we've got the beach mile climb, followed by some repeats of Springbrook, hopefully 130 plus Ks. See how we go. Beautiful spot out here. So how am I feeling? Fatigued at the moment, to be honest. I brought this session forward today because the weather looks crappy tomorrow, so I figured better get it out of the way. However, yeah, legs are feeling it. Recovery score was low this morning, so yeah, we'll see how we go. Just over 2 weeks to go, 2 weeks and a day to go. Tough week this week. I was feeling great last week. Really starting to think like, you know, trying to work out how the race was going to pan out, and I was feeling good, feeling confident this week. Just a combination of not feeling the best and just not having the legs really did my confidence, really snapped my confidence in half. So yeah, a bit of a tough week. I really feel fatigued, so I think I'm going to start big weekend this week and then wind it off a bit. Yeah, this weekend the plan is racing Saturday and Sunday, aiming to get hours Saturday and 6 hours Sunday, so see how we go. So I think 12 days and counting now to Grafton. I'm starting my second last week of training, which thankfully is going to be a lot easier necessarily, because I'm feeling pretty broken at the moment. The good news is on the weekend had two big rides, 130k Saturday in a race, 200k in 6 hours, and a race Sunday including some mountain meat intervals. And that was good for the confidence because I finished pretty strongly on the ride, and yeah, it felt reasonably good. So I guess that gives me a bit of confidence going into the race, and certainly after last week where yeah, it didn't feel like it went my way. So that's good. I guess the bad news is that I'm feeling very fatigued at present. Did a Mount Cootha effort this morning, 2/3 of felt okay one. It was just rubbish, so I think recovery for a few more days yet, and then easy week next week. So it's 4 days from the race, and I'm not in a particularly good place. Practice makes perfect, I guess. So yesterday was out at the track practicing handing off and taking a feed bag at 25 k's an hour, practicing that, and did it a couple times with no dramas. On the last time, the feed bag hooked my bars, and yeah, I came down. So sporting some bark off, which is fine. It was a bit of a clumsy fall. That was fine, I guess. The only drama was that last night, I don't know if it related, not related, maybe it just kicked my immune system in the guts or whatever, but last night had quite a high temperature and I feel like crap today. So all the prep, getting ready, being fit, recovery, practicing the feed, and at this point, assuming I get over, which I'm sure I will, hope to be able to start. And it is, I've got to say, it's disappointing because everything had gone pretty well up to this point, a few ups and downs, but starting to really look forward to it. So yeah, focusing on rest and recovery. I slept like 14 hours. Yeah, I guess we'll see what happens. Yeah, I guess I'll touch base next couple of days and see if I'm gonna be okay. Anyway, cheers. DS Sean driving the car, driving our car. So we've got the convoy going in front of us, we've got the rest of the team. So it's starting to get very real. Discussions now around when to feed, how much to feed, what to wear. So all that good stuff. We've changed our minds a bunch of times already. So plenty more. Yeah, it's all. Who knows? Weather is actually really good. So that's I guess maybe things are turning in our favour. We're all feeling a bit nervous, and actually Johnny, he's jumping out of his skin. He's the only one. Most of us are nervous as hell. So anyway, there we go. Johnny Carr, chief commentator for the course, as we are around America, right? And Johnny's doing our full turn. Thank you, Johnny. I think it's like an extra 3 watts as you commentate, so that was good for me. For the rest. For the race, and we are all ready to go, all registered. Now it's the fun task of pinning numbers on jerseys and transponders on bikes. We've had dinner, had a team chat, talk tactics. I'm starting to get pretty nervous now. You break down each individual kilometre to 228 k's and all the various climbs. You start thinking about all the places where it could all go wrong. But anyway, that's for tomorrow. Now it's time to get the bike set up, get the wheels pumped, get the feed bags ready, water bowls prepped. I'm actually going to enjoy doing that. It'll stop me thinking about tomorrow and how difficult it's going to be. So anyway, here we go.
We have McKaylee. What you going to say, buddy?
Race morning, we're all nervous as hell.
Irish?
Nervous. This would be like going to prom, the great debate over what on earth to wear for Grafton's Inverell.
Aussie champion. Scooter.
Like a drug that I just can't deny, giving me the best high.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Shaking every time you get into my mind.
Here we go now, quickly to one time.
Burning wild in my heart. Take me far away in the dark. Only you can show me how to come alive. I feel shivers down my spine. I've been waiting for a long time. So I need to make you mine. Think I want you in my bloodline. I feel shivers down my spine. I've been waiting for a long time.
Boys,
That was sheer brutality.
you were like 2 minutes behind them. You both did fantastically.
Oh my gosh.
I was cramping from 86k in to the end, but we got there.
These three sprinted to the finish.
Race done. We've just finished the race. We've just sort of come down to earth after what was an incredibly difficult race. I'll go through the race report, I guess, later on, but I can't find the words yet to describe how incredibly difficult excuse me, how incredibly difficult that was. Cramping, just the mental challenge, just to do something that long, that hard, in a racing context, it was great. It was really good. The weather was fantastic. Andrew came second in our team. Our team won our division, which is obviously great. But I'm broken at the moment. I'll check in later.
Waiting for a long time, so I need to make you mine. Think I want you in my bloodline.
So, it's a few months after race day. I purposely wanted to wait a while after the race to do this wrap-up part of the video so I could give you an unbiased, unadulterated view of how I felt of it. If you asked me the day after the race, I would have had very different thoughts about it. My body was broken, I was completely and utterly a mess. And if you'd asked me that day if I was ever going to do the race again, I would have said hell no. So what do I say now? Well, firstly, the race was absolutely brutal. Cycling is such a crazy sport. You spend months and months fussing over every detail, spending all the hours training, working on nutrition, equipment, thinking every aspect of the race through, but it's always something you didn't necessarily plan on that ends up going wrong. And ultimately, it was a real learning curve, and I certainly learned a lot. So the story of my race went like this. I cramped with about 80 Ks into the race, which was really surprising. The first 80 Ks was basically a doddle. There's nothing major, there's a few rolling hills, but nothing particularly scary in the first 2 hours of the race. And I think looking at the data, my average heart rate was about 140. So basically riding sort of tempo for a couple of hours. And then you hit the climb. Immediately the pace rose. My numbers at that stage weren't actually ridiculous. I think I checked, it was 280 odd watts for about 49 minutes, but my heart rate was just through the roof. Certainly more than it should have been for that sort of effort. The net result of that was that I cramped, and when the guys started to attack in the last sort of couple of Ks of the climb, I was distanced. What I didn't know at that point was that more than half the field had been shelled on the climb, and there was about 20 or so left in the bunch, or 20 or 30 in the bunch left when the acceleration happened. I was distanced, and I thought, okay, that's done. The thing that I wanted to happen least has happened. I've got dropped on the climb, and now I'm going to spend all day in no man's land between the front 20 or 30 and the 80 or so guys behind me. But I stuck at it. A small group of around 5 or 6 got together, and we worked really hard for the next 10 or 12 Ks, and I guess magically we actually got back into the bunch, which was fantastic. So after all that effort, we were back. Unfortunately, so were my cramps. I had to manage those cramps basically until the end of the race. So every time there was a hill or a climb, I had to really try and keep a steady power and manage the pain or manage the cramps over that period. It meant that I got dropped again, and I needed to work hard again to get back on, but I managed to do so. In the end, it was a real race of attrition. My teammate managed to get away with a couple of guys and stayed away to the end. I ended up in the next group back, the remains of the peloton, around 15 or 20 of us. And to be honest, I was pretty happy to finish with that group about 2 minutes behind the guys that won. And we finished in a respectable time of around 6.5 hours. So months later, my thoughts about the race are these. I'm disappointed that the cramp meant that what I thought I should have been able to do on the climb didn't eventuate. But I'm also realistic, and I knew that on my best day, finishing in the front group a couple of minutes behind the winners was probably as good as I could have expected. So overall, I'm pretty happy. What about that cramp? I guess I learned 2 things. The first was I did all the wrong things in the day before the race. I spent hours in the car. I spent hours after we got to Grafton on my feet, unloading bikes, wheels, preparing feed bags and jerseys and numbers and water bottles, etc. I didn't have an early night. I didn't have a great sleep, which meant that when I woke up the next day, I felt tired. In fact, my legs felt like jelly on the start line. So definitely did the wrong things. Incidentally, or ironically, we stayed in the same hotel in Grafton as one of the NRS teams, and we watched how they did it. Their riders got out of the van, got into their apartments and put their feet up. Those guys clearly know what they're doing. The second thing was that despite all the training that I did, I learned that my body didn't like basically being in a tempo state for 2 hours, or riding easy for 2 hours and going full gas then for 49 minutes. Nothing in my training replicated that, and I don't think my body was able to react that quickly from being basically an easy ride to full gas. My body really didn't take that change very well, and I think that's probably led to the cramp. There's actually a third thing that I learned, I guess, the hard way as well, and maybe it's something that you can take away. Water, and how much did I need water in the first 120 Ks. It's actually quite an interesting fact of the race. So the first feed station comes after around 4 hours into the race, and after the Gibraltar climb. There is technically a neutral water stop at 73 Ks if you're lucky enough to grab a bottle, and in fact I was lucky enough to grab a bottle there, but the majority of the peloton weren't. So if you don't grab a bottle, you only get your 2 bottles for 4 hours, which frankly is not enough water to get you through to the first feed station at 120 Ks. So that was a learning for me. In fact, I remember standing on the start line and seeing a guy with a water bottle in his back pocket and looking at him thinking he looks ridiculous. Well, I can tell you that after 2 hours in the race, I was thinking I'd give anything to have that guy's 3rd bottle. So the story of the race for me was cramp, getting dropped, getting back on, getting dropped again, getting back on, and absolutely suffering like a dog to the finish. So overall, a great day. Interestingly, someone told me that G2I doesn't really start until you get to Glen Innes, about 160 Ks in. He said, all the guys that you think are strong start to crack, and all the guys that have been biding their time who look weak really come to the fore. I'm not sure that's exactly how the race turned out for me, but I definitely felt like the bunch was becoming more at my level, or coming back to my level in the last 60 Ks. So overall, what an amazing experience. What a box to have ticked off. I'm really happy that I could get through to the end of the race and share with my teammates. It was fantastic. So what of the answer to the question I posed before? Would I do the race again? You know, I waited this long specifically so I'd have an unbiased opinion, but to be honest, I don't really have an answer yet. I haven't decided if there'll be a sequel to this video, but if there is, you'll find it here first. Thanks for watching.